Good morning, everybody. Today we are starting our last lab on ecology. So let's go. Ecology from Greek, oiko means house and logia means study, and the word economy also means house, and nomia means management. So they are similar at some part, and we will look how they are. So in ecology we study the interaction between the organism and the environment, be the environment biotic or abiotic. And also in ecology we study the transfer of energy between organisms. Also in economy we study the transfer of money between systems. So in ecology we start by the individual. So one piece of DNA that can reproduce itself, be it a deer, a human, a cat, a plant, that's an individual, right? Then you have population, so the group of all the same species that live on the same area. Then we have a community, which is interspecific, so we have more species cohabiting, right? We have plants and deer and puma. So we have, in a community we have a lot of species that interact with each other, right? And in the ecosystem we have biotic and abiotic components. The biome is basically similar to the ecosystem, but it's ecosystems that span over continents, so over large areas. And the biosphere, which we looked at previously, it's more like a conceptual zone, a conceptual space, let's say. So it's all of the life that exists on planet Earth, right? So is the Earth a closed system? A closed system means that there is no exchange with the universe. So in terms of matter, yes, it's closed, because gravity will pull all of the matter to the center, be it gas, liquid or solids. So it is a closed system for matter, but it's an open system for energy. So we receive energy from the sun, and also the energy that comes into Earth is radiated back into space, and this flow of energy is what keeps the temperature constant in our planet. Okay, so we looked at the biosphere, and previously we talked about the virosphere as well. So we know that there are a lot of viruses on the ocean that are constantly replicating with the bacteria. And so it's known that when waves crash, so here we have a wave crashing, it emits particles to the atmosphere, and so the presence of virus in high atmosphere is seen, and basically we have virus raining down on us from the atmosphere all of the time. This is in Nazareth, where the Guinness World Record surfed wave is, and it's in Portugal. So here we see a human, and that's a wave. So let's look at abiotic factors. So again, ecology is interaction of organisms with environment, be it the abiotic environment or the biotic environment. So we have chemical factors. Okay, so there are several elements that are present on Earth that are essential for the building blocks of life. So carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. You can make a mnemonic like fonk, like a duck calling. So if we look at DNA, this is DNA. All of this. So if I make this structure, these corners here are carbons. Okay. This is oxygen, so we have oxygen there, we have nitrogen, we have phosphorus, and obviously we have hydrogens, which are not even depicted, but basically you have hydrogens attached to the carbons. Okay. So these are the key elements for the building blocks of life. And we have more chemical compounds like water, salts, acids, bases. So there are a lot of abiotic factors that will affect the organisms living on that space. So for example, here we have a halophyte, basically a plant that's adapted to high salt concentrations, and you can find these in mangroves and in salt marshes. And they have these special glands that evolved to process the salt and secrete the salt through the leaves. Okay, so within ecology there is always evolution. So these structures evolved because of the ecology of this plant was close to salty environments. Then we have physical factors inherent that are constantly there. So gravity is always there. Well, not constantly there, but gravity is always there. That's one. Temperature will change, humidity will change, and light will change during the day. And we have systems, atmospheric, oceanic, and tectonic systems, and cycles. We have the water cycle, and we also have the day and night cycle, and we have seasonal cycles, spring, fall, right? Okay. So for trophic relationships, we have these four main categories. So the first one is a primary producer, which include mostly plants. Autotrophs, so they get energy from the sun, and they synthesize their organic molecules through sunlight, through photosynthesis, right? Then we have primary consumers, which will consume the primary producers, which are herbivores. So here we see a giraffe eating plants, right? So the giraffe is consuming energy directly from the plant that collected energy from the sun. Then we have secondary consumers, which are carnivorous, so the lion will eat the giraffe and obtain energy from the giraffe and not from plants. And then everything will die eventually. So there is this important group, the decomposers, which are comprised by the fungi and bacteria, and maybe some other organisms, but these are the most representative. And basically everything will give back its energy through decompositors, which will then process the dead organisms and bring them back into nutrients, back into the soil, which will feed back into the primary producers. It will increase the richness of the soil. Okay. So we saw the abiotic factors: light, gravity, temperature, the chemicals. So now let's look at biotic factors. So we have, as we said, ecology is the study of interaction of organisms, be it with the environment or with other organisms. So we have biotic factors. We have the way that these organisms interact with each other will make them have a different ecology. Okay. So these are the interspecific interactions between species. We have competition when two different species compete for the same resource. So let's say there is an animal that specializes in eating apples, and there's also another animal that eats apples, so they will be competing for this resource in nature. Then we have mutualism, when both organisms take profit, and that will be the case of the bee and flower. You can also call it symbiosis. It's maybe symbiosis is a bit different from mutualism. I will explain symbiosis in a while. But here, basically, the bee is taking nectar to feed the colony, and the beehive and the flower is increasing its reproductive success because it's spreading pollen, and the bee will go around other flowers and fertilizing other flowers, other plants. So that's mutualism. In symbiosis, we have a very tight evolutionary pressure that these two species almost form like just one mega organism that depend on both sides. Predation, that's simple. I think we all can relate to predation. Herbivory, so yeah, one is gaining, right? The giraffe is eating and the plant is losing leaves, so it's losing the capacity to obtain more energy from sunlight, so that's bad for the plant. And parasites and pathogens, obviously the parasites profits and the host is damaged. So here we have a case of a parasitic fungi that infects insects, cordyceps, that's the name of the genus. Actually, these fungi are very expensive. It's believed to have medicinal properties. The research is not so in depth on this topic, but I think in Chinese medicine they do believe. I might be wrong about this, so don't take this too serious. So now let's explore the ecological niche and what it means. So basically it's how an organism is living on its habitat and what position and role it occupies. So we saw on this previous exercise from last lab that we have specialists that will basically just be able to feed on a single resource. So for example, we have the dung beetle, which specializes in eating dung, right? So that's its main source. Then we have generalists, which will eat basically everything. So here's the example of the raccoon, and raccoons can eat many things, right? So they are specialists to one type of food. Specialization makes the competition lower because there are less competition looking for that resource, but also makes them more vulnerable because if this resource ends, then they will not have any source of food or not be able to feed from anything else. Okay, so we have behavioral ecology now. So we saw that animals interact with one another, and we saw that they also interact with the environment. So it's very important for animals and plants also to communicate. So everything is in constant communication. There is always this dance, this exchange of energy. So we have visual communication. So in this case, the males are communicating with the females by the colors, and females will or not be able to take their message. And if they are, then they will mate and they will keep the species going. And here we have a bear marking its territory. So the bear scratched the tree, and now it's marking its territory with its smell, with chemical molecules. Here we have a bird that's probably singing to attract females and also to scare other males. So you have to have in mind that there are several types of communication, right? communication for mating and communication for aggression and territory marking, and maybe even more type of communication. And it's interesting that there is some research from 2009, and maybe more, I didn't look so much into that, but that the bird sing, which is always different from species to species, co-evolved with the foliage that birds are living in. So if the bird is living on a forest with leaves like that or shaped like that, or if it's living on forests with leaves shaped like that, then the sound will hit the leaves and bounce off differently because of the shape of the leaf. So the idea is that the birds that have we have different phenotypes of song, okay? And so the birds that have the best song adapted to the leaves will be the birds that have more offspring, that have more fitness. So these genes are passed down the generations, right, by natural selection. So we have a lot of communication and behaviors to facilitate communication. And we also have parasitic manipulation, which, just take this off, which is an interesting, fact of nature that a parasite, a virus or a bacteria or a proteus or a fungi, can have a secondary phenotype that's outside of the organism itself. It's a phenotype that will affect the host. So, okay, let's take a look at this. So we have a fungi that infects ants, and basically it will change the behavior of the ants. It will get into their brains and make them climb up to a tree, attached to the underside of a leaf with the mandibles, with teeth, and make what is called a death grip. And basically the ant is hanging up with the head upside down, and then the ant dies and the mushroom grows out of its head, and then the spores spread again. And this is a form of strong ecological control, because these fungi will keep the ant population at bay. Then we had this example of the Toxoplasma gondii. So we know that cat is a definitive host, and they have intermediate hosts, rats. And research shows that the rats that are infected with Toxoplasma will not be scared of rat pee smell that they normally would be. So this will facilitate preying upon rats from the cats. Also, you have to remember the blood-brain barrier situation of cats. So the Toxoplasma can't get into the brain of the cats, but it can get into the brain of humans and rats. Then we have this case of a viral aphrodisiac in the cricket virus taxensis. Basically, this virus increases a lot mating, so the virus spreads a lot also as a consequence. So is it possible to study human behavior? Yes, it is, but it's much more difficult, because with humans you can't control exactly their routine. You can control the amount of food, the amount of light, the amount of sleep, the amount of alcohol for long periods of time, as you can do with rats, for example, in the lab. And what about coronavirus? Does coronavirus have any parasitic manipulation into its phenotype? So let's take a look. Okay, so it might be a big stretch to go from parasitic manipulation into the neurology of coronavirus, but I think it's interesting for us to have this in mind. So the main thing about this virus that's making now a world pandemic is that it's very, very tough virus. So it will resist outside of the host for a long time, where normally viruses depend on the host for their survivability, This one can last days on surfaces. And also inside of the host, it has a very long period of incubation, which allows for a lot of replication, right? And with a lot of replication, we have also a higher chance of mutations occurring. So here we have a human cell, okay? So that's the cell membrane, and on the cell membrane we have receptors, right? We have several proteins, and some proteins are receptors. And the receptor from a human is different from the receptor of a bat. So there are several molecular signals on cells that distinguish a human cell from a bat cell or an armadillo cell. Okay? And so what happened is, maybe because this virus has such a long incubation time and it's prone to mutation, the virus randomly was able to have a strain that could recognize human cells. And so this is the spike protein that we see making the crown of the coronavirus. And the binding domain, let's say it's here. So this is the part that will bind to the human cell. And after it binds, then it can get inside. Okay? And so now what's happening also is that it's evolving to, it already did, to also infect cats and tigers. So it appears that the virus got a new reservoir, and it can be transmitted from humans to felines. So, but let's now see if there is any bridge with parasitic manipulation. So the neurological aspects of coronavirus are quite interesting, actually. So they affect the taste of smell, the sense of taste and the sense of smell. So this is the smell receptors and this is the taste receptor. And these are the first symptoms of coronavirus infection. You will lose your sense of taste and smell. So I ask myself, is there any evolutionary advantage for that? Does losing taste and smell make the virus be able to spread more easily? I don't know. Is it just a random mutation / random byproduct phenotype? So these are questions that I don't have any answer, but just to make you think about it, because maybe there is some advantage in making the host lose the sense of smell and taste. So let's see now how energy flows from the universe to our plate. So basically we have this massive star, the sun. It's massive compared to the planet Earth, but there are bigger stars in the sun. And so basically the sun is constantly emitting energy, and this energy is being sent out all around, and Earth happens to be there. And so energy flows from the sun to our plate. Basically what I mean is that it's really that. Like, energy comes from the sun to plants, and then from plants to a cow or a chicken, and then we eat them, right? But we are not the only animals eating food. Okay, so again, the Earth is closed system for matter, but it's open system for energy. And this is how it goes. So we have energy loss. So the plants will be the one with the higher energy potential. And as you go up the pyramid, energy will be lost. And we will see in a second why. So it's impressive that we are just receiving these waves, these light waves, and transforming that into plant and into meat, right? The same with sound waves. So if you think about it, we produce sounds, right? And these sounds are nothing more than energy. So I want you to think about that. So here I have a graph showing that environment encloses society and the economy depends on society. And we could have a longer lecture just about ecological economy, but that's not the case. But I just want to remember you that economy serves the society and the humans, and not the other way around. And that all of this depends on the environment, because the Earth is a closed system for matter. So the resources that are here will not increase infinitely. So we cannot have an economy that is based on infinite exploitation of resources. Okay? So if we come here now to see how energy flows and make this into a hierarchical pyramid, then we will see that there is always loss of energy. So the plants will be the ones retaining the most of energy, but only about 5 to 10% of that energy will flow up, because energy is lost by heat, by metabolism. So here, let's say we have a primary consumer, this caterpillar. It's eating the primary producer, right? And it collects 200 joules of energy from the plant. 100 joules will go for the feces, another around 70 will go for cellular respiration, and 33 will go for growth. And also we have heat, so there is energy lost for heat. Okay, so as the caterpillar is digesting, digestion produces heat, so we have energy lost by heat. And this is based on the second law of thermodynamics, which states that there is an efficient energy transfer. The second law of thermodynamics is a bit more complex. It talks about entropy, which is a constant of the universe as far as we know. So yeah, our system, everything is going towards entropy. And it's impressive that a cell, life, is constantly fighting entropy. And it does so quite successfully until it dies. So there are several ways to represent energy flow within a community. So we have trophic webs and trophic chains. Webs are the ones that we want to focus on, because a chain only shows a single path for energy transfer, okay? And we have to remember that the arrows show the direction of energy flow, so from organism consumed to consumer. So here, if a bird feeds on an earthworm, then the earthworm is giving its energy to the bird, okay? That's the concept. And this is a food web. This one here is a food web. So we have a lot of different interactions, right? So I want to make you this question: is this a primary consumer? This guy here? No. The question is no, right? So maybe the fish will be the primary consumer that will feed on algae, for example, and the bear will be a secondary consumer. Or if the fish is carnivorous and feeds on barnacles, then the fish is secondary consumer and the bear is a tertiary consumer. Okay? Yes. So here, just to finish this, to close this chapter, we have sun giving energy to the plants, and then everything goes in that way. There is heat energy loss, and then the decomposers, when everything dies, will bring energy back to the primary producers. Okay? And here we see the difference in energy potential. Okay, so now let's look into species diversity. So diversity basically means the community, so the number of species on a space, right? And diversity is very important because all of these species are in perfect balance with one another. So if we take one, then we might disrupt completely these food webs and the equilibrium of nature, right? So species richness is the number of species in a community. Species richness. Relative abundance is the proportion of individuals of the community that are in each species. So how much of this species over the total, right, of species, of individuals. And hiddenness refers to how close in number each species is in an environment. So the relative abundance of different species. And to calculate diversity, there is this mathematical model, the Simpson's reciprocal index, and we will see it now. So again, it's a measurement of diversity, and we have the Simpson's index D, where 0 is the highest diversity. So we make the reciprocal index basically invert, right? So that we have 1 as the highest diversity community, and this is more intuitive, more easy to understand, right? Community with similar relative abundance of all species is more diverse. So let's say we have community A with a lot of cantarellus, this mushroom, and here we have community B where there is more relative abundance of each species, right? And so it's more diverse. Okay, so how to calculate Simpson's index? So first you need to get your data, so you go to the field, you count your animals, or your plants, or your fungi, okay? And you will get that down into your lab, and I will also explain how to do your exercise. And then you add the abundances to get the total of all species. So let's say I will go and I will count 23 owls, and then I will count 44 salamanders, 74 squirrels, and this is the total, right? So I add the total of all animals I saw, or organisms. Then you will calculate PI. So you divide the abundance of each species by the total. So in this case we will have 23 over 142, right? So this is the abundance of my species by the total. Okay? So you do that for all of the species, and you get your PI. Then we will square this value to get PI squared. Okay? So you will square, you basically square this and get this value. Okay? So after you have the squares, you will add them. So add all of this, and you get this value. That's D. Okay, that's the Simpson index, D. And then you take the reciprocal, so you make 1 over D, and you have your Simpson index, reciprocal Simpson index. And this will show the number of species in the habitat. Okay, so let's go to the lab exercise now, but I have to review this. Okay, so this value this is the reciprocal Simpson index, and the minimum is 1, and the maximum would be the number of species, the species richness of an habitat. So in the case 3, we have 3 species, 1, 2, 3. so it can go from 1 to 3. And then in this case, on this community of owls, salamanders, and squirrels, we measured and we got our symptom index at 2.5, right? So that's our species diversity. And then if we measure another community, again, of owls, salamander, and squirrels, but with different abundance, with different numbers, then maybe we'll get a different measurement for the Simpson index. And so basically we are comparing these two communities, and on this information we can say that, okay, this community is more diverse than this community. That's the concept. Okay, so if you want to go, or you can go to a place with nature or a park, then go for this exercise. Just beware of snakes and poison ivy, and also don't trespass private property. Okay, and you'll do a plot like you did before for Lab 8. 10 feet per 10 feet, 2 meters per 3 meters, and just spend some time observing the abundance, the number of organisms, and the traffic level in your plot. So basically, you go to a place, make a square, and then count all of the species that you can see of plants, of fungi, of animals. Animals being insects, right? You need to find at least 10 organisms and take pictures of them to send to me in your report for the lab, and also submit those in iNaturalist if you want. And iNaturalist will also help you to identify species. So to get the species name, you just need to take a good picture of them. 1 year ago, when I taught this lab, we found 2 snakes and a turtle. So yeah, just be careful with poisonous, venomous snakes. Which I think there are some here. But you can go with no problem to nature, just be cautious and respectful, right? Okay, and then you want to record this data on page 259 and 260 of your lab manual. Give it species name. If you can't find the name on iNaturalist, then you can name it yourself. Just make something that makes sense, and then give a brief description of the organism. Okay, and I will show you in a second more details about this. So if you don't want to go outside, and again you're adults, so it's up to you now what to evaluate the risk and to take your decisions, right? So you can use the iNaturalist and do an exercise for comparing diversity in between islands. Okay,